Welcome to the Old Souls and Seekers podcast, brought to you by Satori Prime. If you're anything like us, you've been around and around the personal development and mindset block quite a few times. You've read the books, watched the videos, attended the seminars, and even worked with a coach or two, and yet you still find yourself searching for more. You may even feel stuck or that you should be farther along than where you are right now. And after doing over a decade of mindset work, we've come to this realization. Mindset work is like a small hit of dopamine that distracts you from your true work. You get these little hits of feeling better, only to be met with the same underlying conditions and patterns over and over again. Now, mindset was an important part of your evolution as well as ours, but it hits a plateau, and now you find yourself ready for that deeper layer of growth and expansion. If you're listening to this podcast, then you're ready to get off that Ferris wheel. This podcast is only for those that are ready to dive deep and do the real inner healing work. For those that are ready to move past more information into actual experiences. If you're looking for more understanding, then you've come to the wrong place. This is a home for old souls ready to fully embrace and remember who they truly are. Ready to make a profound difference in their lives and in the lives of others. So welcome home, dear one. We're excited to be part of your journey. All right. Well, guys, girls, people,
ladies and gentlemen,
theys, thems. This is our last Tuesday tune-up for the year.
Wild.
Which means
this is your last chance to get a tune-up.
That it's a new year. like right around the bend, which is crazy that we're here again. Crazy. I thought today we can talk maybe about the bullshit of New Year's resolutions.
Good.
And just kind of like how we approach it and what we're focused on and what we do differently. And how do you feel about that?
I feel okay about it.
Yeah. Did you have something else in mind?
No, it's fine. I mean, it's apropos.
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of that time.
It's mildly sexy.
Thank you.
As far as resolutions are concerned, for those of you guys are in here, I'm just curious, do you guys make them? How do you go about them? If you want to sound off in the chat box, I'd love to, in the chat box, that sounded weird for some reason. In the chat box, I'd love to hear about it. I don't resolve usually to anything because I feel like throughout the entire year I'm resolving to so many things. I don't ever have like this year I'm going to do this kind of thing, because to me I think what I've learned over the year is that if it's not a lifestyle, you're not going to do it anyway. There's no crash diet that works. There's no easy way to get your body, one thing that, I'll do a 3-month sprint with my body and get myself in the best shape of my life. Like I find that incremental change is the best change. So I don't anticipate like throwing myself into something. I mean, I want to learn a new language. I have, just like everyone else, I have my excuses right now. It's young children who require a lot of my time and my attention. And I just find between, them and just trying to keep my body where I want it and stuff like that. And there's just a lot of energy in that direction. And I know time is going to change and things will change and I'll get that time back. Having said that, to me, it's always, if I can't make it a lifestyle, I just don't see the point.
I like that.
I just don't see the point of doing it. Like if I'm not going to make it a lifestyle to learn a new language, what's the point? I don't want to do a 3-month sprint and then not do it anymore. And things in my life that I haven't stuck with is because I didn't make them into a lifestyle. So I'm also, call it a conspiracy or not, I think that our calendar system is totally fucked up. And there's supposed to be 13 months of 28 days every year. And that's why, to me, like when I always tune into January 1, there's a lack of newness in the energetic field at that time. It's like, because truth be told, the year hasn't actually ended. And if you tune into like around the time the Chinese New Year kicks in, that's more accurate, in my opinion, to the time of year where the freshness actually happens. So that, I know that's just kind of throwing stuff out there, but there's, for those that don't know, we have like a Gregorian calendar, which is what most of us use, the 12-month calendar. And then you have like the biblical Hebrew calendar, which is a lunar calendar, which is based on a 13-month system. And I don't know about you guys, but like, lunar cycles have a lot to do with emotion and things that happen on our planet. So it seemed to come that like, those cycles have a lot more to do with just what's going on our planet. So yeah, I don't know. That's just my take on it. I think for some people, resolving to have this, that, or the other can make a big difference. And it's just not my game. I love the way I do my life. There's nothing particularly wrong or that needs fixing right now. And it's more like, for me, it's more subtly turning the dials and optimizing than it is making big changes.
Yeah. And it's really cool that I see like a lot of people here also kind of on that same tip. I will share this other thing that I think has really shifted for me, which is also, I believe, like even as I was sharing about my excitement, I really do believe that this way of being and wanting to create and like the goals that I have really shifted. And I think that's why I have the experience that I have right now. So I'll share with you guys that like I used to have areas of life, kind of like Ian's pointing to, that I wanted to work on, or, whether it be like financial goals, business goals, health goals, family goals, monetary goals, things like that I used to create. And what I started to pay attention to was that it got to a time in like the year where you would kind of review like a check-in and you're like, oh, I'm not meeting the goals. And then you have to like deal with all the upset around that you haven't played, or that you're not where you want to be or whatever. And then the energy behind that was kind of like icky. It was like, ugh, I wasn't like, didn't motivate me where I was like, oh my God, only 3 months left to do the goal. And like, I wasn't like running for it. So I was like, okay, that fucking doesn't work for me. And maybe it does for some. I'm sure there are plenty of people out there that like are motivated by that. I'm not one of them. What I started to tune into though, is that ultimately, and we talk about this all the time, it's like my outside world is simply a reflection of my inside world, right? So if things out here aren't working the way I want them to, right? Whether it be health, relationships, money, time, whatever it is, then I can go out there and try to like move shit around to make it look and feel the way I think it needs to look and feel, which also, I don't know if you guys are aware of that, like, but that doesn't work for me either. And what I started to tune into, I was like, well, if the outside world is a reflection of my inside world, then my inside world, I can actually have a lot of say over. Like the outside world seems daunting to me. Like there's just so many fucking variables. Like, this delusion that you can control anything out there. If COVID didn't blow that delusion out of the water for every single human being, like, I don't know what else you need to come and tap you on the shoulder and be like, you have no fucking control over anything that's happening out there. Like zero, negative, whatever it is. So I'm like, okay, well, if I don't have control over that, what is it that I can? And that's my inner world. And so my goals today have nothing really to do with the outside world. It's like, I want to experience more peace. That was my big one last year. Like, I want more peace in my life, right? And the way, it's not like I'm going to alter all these circumstances in my life to provide me peace. Like, it's not how it goes. It's, can I find peace within while all the chaos is happening out there, right? And then that is something that I can, day in, moment by moment, choose to be a participant in. And what I've noticed is, like, as I bring more peace, which in essence creates more stability in my life, then my outside world begins to reflect more stability and more peace. So they're like my home life, right? Like, the kids are more peaceful. My relationship with my wife is more peaceful. My relationship with Guy is more peaceful. My relationship to money is more peaceful and stable. And therefore, like, more of it comes my way.
Yeah.
And that's not to say that, like, shit isn't happening, or like circumstances and stuff isn't happening in my life all the time. It does. You know, Guy and I almost bankrupt our company for the whatever, 7th, 8th time just a few months ago. And my ability to be with the circumstance that we were facing was so wildly different than I had ever gone through it before. And that, I believe, is the reason that we shifted out of it as quickly as we did and into a circumstance that both of us, like, in the best case of scenarios, if we jotted down like all of our life goals, we wouldn't have come up with what showed up when we just surrendered to that, and like still found that peace and stability and well-being within. So to me, honestly, like, I want to keep expanding that, because that seems to be like the gift that keeps on giving in every other area of my life. And something like that I'm really, really playing, and I know Guy is playing this game right along with me, is I'm creating like a massive, massive breakthrough in my wealth this year. Like, that's a big piece that I'm just like having my awareness on this year. And I created some like really cool gifts that I get to give to myself when that happens, as like this like very clear marker. But yeah, that to me has created massive, massive shifts, because at the end of the day, I'm not looking for these markers out there of like, oh, I'm so far away from my goal, or blah, blah, blah. I just keep looking in here and I'm like, am I experiencing more peace? Right? Like, in this circumstance, am I able to find that center faster? Am I able to stay in my alignment while all this stuff is happening? And listen, stuff is always going to come to like throw you, and it happens. And now I use it as an opportunity to be like, oh, how fast can I recognize that threw me? How fast can I bring myself back to that place? And then how long can I stay at that place? And then I just watch all the stuff around me just kind of work itself out.
Yeah, I was going to mention that, you know, in one of our programs, one of the first things we talk about, that's a kind of like a little gauntlet challenge that we throw down. And there's a way that we go about it, but I'll like, the overarching concept is to not meddle, like to not get involved with things. And so how many of you guys know that you have like something you're trying to resolve in your life and you're actively trying to resolve it all the time? Just say I in the chat box if you can relate. And then just letting you, think about or feel into, what would it be like if you just stopped dealing with that thing completely? Like, you just let it go, however it is, in whatever state it's in, and you just didn't do anything about it. And I know that can sound terrifying, right? To like try to not do something about something, because especially if it feels like detrimental. And truth be told, I think most things that feel painful or negative in the system in some way, at some level, we're all dealing with the fear of death, you know, even if it's unconscious. And so it's like, hey, if I don't do that, if I don't do this thing, it can actually feel like I'm going to die if I don't work on this problem or whatever it might be. And that's a challenge to let it go, right? Like surrendering to the moment is probably one of the most consistent teachings of my entire life, and most challenging, because it's such humanity conditioned nature, different than just nature, conditioned nature, to like do something about what's happening right now. And, one of those, the reason we ask people to do that for like 2 weeks is just to run an experiment and to see what happens when you're not intervening with what's occurring. Yeah. And for a vast majority of people, in the art of non-intervention is actually where the thing changes for them. Something shifts, something resolves. And I think it just works back to the same patterning. It's like, if you resist it, it persists. The moment you stop and surrender to what's so, it has the spaciousness to move through. And so like, there's so much resolution to be had in our lives by just not working on something. And so again, it's cool to have goals and games, and I like all those things, but it's like, you got to feel into the energy that's behind what's creating the thing. If you're in like disillusionment and you're trying to like fix something and you're like, all right, I'm going to create this lofty goal, maybe creating that lofty goal actually creates quite a bit of a contraction in your system. Like it scares you so much that the system like locks up, because it's like, I don't want to do that. Yep. Right. And like, that's where you're going to be creating that thing from, or attempting to be creating that thing from. To me, that doesn't scream health in the system. Like when you get on the stream, on your path, call it whatever you want to call it, like you're in that pocket where it's like your thoughts and your emotions are aligned. There's a spaciousness that you feel with it. There's an excitement that comes along with it. I was just listening to Alex Huberman. Is it Alex or Andrew Huberman? I always forget. Andrew Huberman. Yeah, Andrew Huberman podcast with Robert Greene.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and Andrew says that that book, Mastery, that we always talk about, is top 3 books he's ever read. And one of the books he recommends the most. And
that's so cool.
I agree wholeheartedly. But what I want to tell you is Robert Greene wrote that book so that people can find their life's purpose. He said he didn't even start working on it until he was 38 or 39 years old.
And it took him probably a decade plus to write that.
I mean, like where he started doing something on his life purpose, right?
Wow.
And he mentions how, it's the easiest when you're a child, obviously harder when you're in your 20s, much harder in your 30s, seemingly starts becoming near impossible in your 40s and 50s because of the stuff that's ingrained. But he's talking about how there's like grooves in your brain, and it's like, you just want to go with that. But I couldn't agree more. It's like, if you don't have an emotional connection to what you're doing, it's extremely hard to persevere in the face of no results. And most of life is really facing a lack of results. It's not, what was it, Bo Eason that told us? It's like, most of my life is just course correction. Once in a while I hit the bullseye, right? Like most of life is just course correcting over and over and over again, making subtle changes. Melanie's asking for the book. It's a book called Mastery by Robert Greene. Definitely one of the most inspirational books. We use it to name a phenomenology that he says in there, where it's like when you're starting out with anything, you're a student, then you become a practitioner, and eventually you become a master of that. And we always use that in like every environment we get into, whether we're in a business environment or an environment of personal transformation, because we want people to understand you're going to come into this and you're coming in as a student. A student doesn't know their head from their ass. Practitioner is someone who's been doing it for like a year or 2, maybe 3, starts getting a grasp of what are the practices, the commitments I need to make to get better at this thing. And like mastery is like, appropriately about a 7-year journey. And the reality is, in my life, in my experience, I think Ilan would agree, it's right around the time that you hit that 7-year mark that you just start feeling that you know what the hell you're doing at all. Like now you're just like, all right, now I can get started, So it's kind of weird because you're like on this path where it's like you're gaining, fluency in some area of your life. But like, it's like when you have mastered a language is when you can start expressing through books, by writing books, by writing posts that make sense. But it's like before you've mastered English, you knew a few words, but could you really impact with your words? Probably not, not as much as you could later on. And so like, that's the art of learning. And, whatever it is that you're choosing, and that's why we choose this path. We choose to educate people in this path because we understand that life, whatever you're experiencing, no matter what you decide to do with your life, it all springs forth from a certain foundation. And that foundation is your consciousness. That foundation is what you believe about yourself. That foundation is how you feel about life. That foundation is how you perceive your relationships and perceive yourself in this world. And so it's like your ability to do anything is either going to explode or be limited based on those things. And so to not learn about yourself, to not learn about your consciousness, to not learn about how to let go of things, how to surrender to things, how to heal from things, how to authentically connect, how to experience safety, how to experience well-being, like all that stuff. Like if that's the source where everything springs forward from in your life, and that's not the foundation of it, in our opinion, everything is harder. Elon mentioned facing financial ruin, which we have off and on throughout the years. And, I can't tell you that everything is like hunky dory in our world either, but here's the reality. Like Elon and I are on purpose. We've been on purpose since we were about 20 years old. And so to us, it's like we can face any circumstance, and some of it have been terrifying, truly terrifying in the face of that, because we literally cannot imagine doing anything else. Now, if this was just something we just did as like a hobby or a hack job,
we were trying
we would have run away with our tails between our legs a long, long time ago, but that's what keeps us going. It's like, look, if, there's many people who have found brilliant success in the later parts of their life, 30, 40, 50, 60 years old, right? Where something clicks and something magical happens. And a lot of us don't think that way. We're like, oh, well, I missed my opportunity. I didn't do that when I was young, or I didn't do that when I was 20s. Fine. Okay, maybe you're not going to become, the best footballer in the world, or, an all-star baseball player at 40 years old. But your goals can change, right? That's the gift of getting older, is that your desires shift, and what, maybe your body is strong at this point in your life. Maybe it's not. Maybe your mind is really strong at this point in your life. Maybe it's not. Maybe you have linguistic aptitude at this point in your life that you didn't have when you were 30 or 20 years old. What could you do with that? What could you become? And again, it's time and time again, we see, I was just on with our level 1 people, and some of you guys were there. And you just see that, that lack of belief, that lack of ability to step out. And so for a lot of us, when we hear that, we're like, how do I motivate myself to become that person? How do I think my way out of this trap? And here's the reality. You can't. That's what nobody talks about for the most part, because people don't have a lot of fluency in the area of energetics and awareness and body. It's you literally can't think your way out of that trap.
Yeah. You
can think the way that you think. And even if you try to think new ways, it'll still be informed by the way that you think.
That's it.
And so your body has been moving in a certain direction for such a long time. There's so much energy and groove set. And that's where the flow is. And that's why it's so difficult to change that flow. But because most people try to do it from, I just need to think differently than I have before. Okay, try to think differently about motivation. Are you motivated? Good luck. Try to think different about your sadness. Are you less sad now? Good luck. Try to think different about your depression. Are you less depressed now? Good luck. I've been all those things. I know it doesn't work. I've been angry since I was 3 years old. I mean, violently angry towards, I don't even know what, my dad, life, God, this, that, and the other. I'm you don't think I want to, I'm not every time I'm angry, I'm woohoo, more of that, please. I'm oh my God, this is intense. This is insane. Can we cut this shit out? You don't think I've thought about not that for so many years? There is no liberation in me thinking differently about it. There is just more judgment, to be honest, about those systems. It really is. It's in the felt sense. It's in our ability to be with what's arising in a compassionate way, not in a judgmental way, that allows for these things to let go. I can't tell you I'm never angry anymore. It comes up. It's a way my system defends itself. It's a knee-jerk response. Having said that, there is a lot more peacefulness in my experience than there was 5 years ago. There's a lot more ease today. It takes a lot more to trigger me. It's not, it used to feel like it was ruling my life. Now it feels like it's something that steps in once in a while.
And you
right?
have a ton of more awareness around it.
I have a ton more awareness around it. The experience itself doesn't last as long. It doesn't feel sticky or as heavy in my system. I know how to get myself resourced. There's so many things I know how to do today with it, but it's not because I was like, oh, I should stop being angry. This is the year I'm going to resolve to be less angry. It doesn't work that way. And so whether it's anger or something else in your life, like we all have our knee-jerk responses, and all those things really, 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 really require you to let go and to compassionately see them as they are for what they are, and not be so upset at them when they arise. You got to understand they are coming forward to protect something very, very holy, very sacred, very sensitive. And so they're doing their job extremely well, maybe to the detriment and chagrin of your life. Nonetheless, they are doing their job extremely well. And if you can't learn how to begin to work with those mechanisms versus trying to work against those mechanisms, you're always going to end up trying to resolve to be some other way or have something else show up in your life. And again, for my original point, it's why the only thing I resolve to is becoming incrementally better every day. Even if it's the smallest little thing, like, okay, just notice that sensation. Let me just practice noticing that sensation over and over and over and over again. Let me not try to change the way that I think. Let me work with where it's at right now. In our company, Ilan's saying there's big change. These are incremental changes that have happened over a very, very long period of time. We've been working on our sales and marketing systems for years to get them where they are right now, and then there's a sudden breakthrough, and then there's the problems that breakthrough creates, and it kind of takes a little slide back, and then there's another breakthrough. And so today when I look at it, I'm like, okay, can we make our system 1% better today?
Yeah.
Like, what do I get to sit down and do so it's 1% better? Okay, great. At the end of this month, I don't know what one times, I know what 1 times 1 is. It's still 1, but let's say it's 30% better at the end of this month. It's a huge improvement.
Yeah. Right.
Say 3 months from now, it's 100% improvement. That's twice the efficiency. Huge improvement, right? Like, so that's the stuff. It's like life. The beauty of life, in my opinion, happens in the subtle. I'll say this, the last piece. Like, I have 2 children at home. One's about to turn 1 year old in 2.5 weeks or so, 3 weeks. One just turned 5. And for those that have kids, I know you know this to be true, but if you don't, it's like you see other people's kids and you haven't seen them for a few months or a year, and you see them like, oh my God, look how big they got. And that's your experience of it. But as a parent, what makes it so beautiful is the subtle things that happen on a day-to-day. They learn this little thing, and they start doing this subtle little thing, and only a parent would notice that because you're there with them all the time, and you start noticing like, oh, this changed a little bit today, or they became more aware of that today. And I derive so much joy from noticing those subtle changes in my children. And it also makes you just appreciate humanity and like what it takes to take a life that was just born and that eventually turns into, quote, an adult or whatever it is, right? That becomes self-sufficient, and like how much insane effort that requires on your part and presence and stuff like that. But like, it's not because, oh, they did that whole thing today. It's like, oh, they're practicing. Oh, look at that little subtle change. And like, for me, I just get so much satisfaction from noticing those subtleties. And so it's like that's where I derive satisfaction in my own life today as well. Subtle changes.
Yeah. It's really interesting you bring up kids. I was actually thinking about Fanny when you kind of started this, but I'm noticing it also with kids. It's like, I think the thing that makes the biggest difference using kind of Robert Greene's mastery idea is commitment. Like, as a parent, if you think about it, most of the time as parents, we don't get it right. Like, most of the time. I mean, like, by the way, for all those parents who think that they need to be perfect all the time, just so you guys know, like, the law is.
Oops, sorry, bro. Sorry about that. I thought I was turning off mine. I turned off yours.
How'd you turn off mine? That's wild.
I didn't realize I could even do that.
The thing is, if you get it right 30% of the time, like if you attune to a child 30% of the time, so like 1 out of 3, you're doing a perfect job. Perfect job. Okay. Now, that means that 2 out of 3 times you are misattuned, not doing it right, etc. Right? Imagine if you woke up and after 10 of these failures, 50 of these failures, whatever, you were like, you know what? I'm not good at this parenting thing. I quit. Like, you can't do that. You just can't do that. Like, with kids, it's one of the few places in life that you got to show up no matter what. Your life can be in the fucking shitter. Like, in every other area, you're going to show up for your kids. Because some will say, like, I have no choice. But that's bullshit. You always have a choice. I mean, there are parents that leave. I don't think anyone here who's working on themselves ever consider even doing that. But, like, people do that, you know? So that is a choice. So I would venture to say that commitment is probably one of the most important things. Now, with children, I think it's kind of baked in. It's like when I have a child, like, I'm basically saying that I'm committed to this being for life. But let's take it another place, right? Relationships. The idea of marriage, if you think about it, is a commitment for life. You are saying, right, like we all have that thing of, I'm there through sickness, health, whatever that, whatever the phrasing is. So like what we're actually giving our word to is, again, a commitment for life. But how many people hold on to that commitment? I mean, statistically, less than 50%. People want to achieve health goals, but how committed are they? If you look at any gym membership philosophy, right? They will take a monthly fee and they know that 80-90% of the people that are going to pay an ongoing membership will never set foot in the doors after the first month, but we'll just keep it going. So places like Planet Fitness and all this stuff caught on and they were like, all right, we're just going to charge $10 a month or whatever. I don't know what it is today. And like, we're going to have tens of thousands of people pay us for something that they're never, ever going to use, but they won't cancel it because that would really be them admitting their failure. So they're just going to keep it going. Maybe next month. Guy and I used to always joke that the gyms were always the busiest for the first 2-3 weeks after the new year.
Hated it.
And then everyone would disappear.
Yeah.
Because their fucking commitment went out the window.
Yeah, by February, it's just back to normal.
Back to normal.
Yeah.
That's it. And so what's interesting is, and I spoke to my wife about this the other day, Fanny and I just, this year, we celebrated 15 years of marriage. And we've been together for like 16 and a half years, let's say. I proposed to Fanny after we were together for just 4 months. And what I said to her was, it was really interesting. Like, we knew really, really early on in our relationship, like I said, I love you to her 2 weeks into the relationship. And I was like, look, I don't need you to say anything back to me. I just want you to know where I'm at. Like, I love you and I'm going to marry you. Like that was in 2 weeks. I knew, right? I didn't know it like on the first date, but in 2 weeks I knew. By 4 months, I actually proposed to her. So now we were both committed. And I said, what's really interesting is most couples stay together in this, like, I'm going to feel you out and figure out, like, do I want to marry you, not marry you? Are you my person, not my person? And they do this for like a year, 2, 3, 5, 7, 9, 10, whatever it is, right? And I'm not making anyone wrong for doing that. What I want to name, though, is that like inside of that level of commitment, what you're looking for is this person right for me? Isn't that person right for me? And then they do that thing, because I have not met a person yet on planet Earth who doesn't bother the fuck out of me in one way or another, right? Like, so now you're in an intimate relationship with this person. They're going to do just one thing. right? Just one thing that's going to upset you. They're going to do many, right? But if your commitment is like, let me see, that really fucking upsets me. But because Fanny and I were committed to forever from 4 months in, a lot of that, like, none of that stuff came up. Because as it came up, I was like, I don't care. It's not that big a deal. Like, we're in this forever. I don't give a shit. And you start to look at things from a very different lens when your commitment is forever. Like, our commitment to Satori Prime is forever. Like, I will do this till the day I die. Probably on my deathbed, I will be saying something that has to do with spirituality and coaching and blah, 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 blah. Like, we live, breathe everything, this stuff. There's nothing else on planet Earth that I'm going to do. Like, I'm just not. Maybe the way it's done and all that stuff can change, but like, I'm in it forever, right? So that's my commitment. So when shit gets rough and stuff happens, which in entrepreneurship, for anyone that knows, like, that's an inevitability. Elon Musk has almost bankrupted multiple companies many a times. When your commitment is unwavering to yourself, it doesn't matter. We interviewed Jonathan DiMartino a long time ago, and he said this line, which really resonated for me. He said, when you can get that things aren't in the way of your path, but rather they are on your path and
on the way
of your path.
Yeah. Not in the way, but on the way.
Right? Like, it is literally like a self-creation in order to sharpen your axe, in order to chisel away everything that no longer is necessary, or, on your way to whatever is next, like the up-leveling and the releasing and the liberation of. And when that hit me, I was like, Guy and I got really, really lucky because we found our purpose when, like you said, when we were very young. I was 21, Guy was 19. And it was very clear to me that day. I didn't know how the fuck we were going to do it or how it was going to show up in my life, but I will never forget that Sunday at that event. I literally stood up on stage and I declared that this is what I want to do for the rest of my life. And here we are, 21 years later. Like, this is what I'm doing. So then everything that showed up, like, really felt synchronistically part of that path to unravel and release and liberate what was no longer necessary for me to get to wherever this energy is moving me. Like, at the end of the day, I'm a vessel to this. And that's why our commitment is like, it's so paramount in the way that we operate in life. But think about how few places in your life you have that level of unwavering commitment. Truthfully, like, the more I think about it, I think for most humans, other than kids, I don't know that there are many areas that people have this kind of unwavering commitment to. And I would almost think that, like I said earlier, I don't think that people think that they have that level of commitment by choice. Mm-hmm. I think they're like, well, I had a kid, I got to take care of the kid, blah, blah, blah. But like I said earlier, there's always a choice.
Well, I think maybe fundamentally that's why it's such a life-altering experience for so many, because it's the first time in many people's lives that they're truly, deeply, and eternally committed to something. And whether that's by choice or by circumstance, but like, yeah, it's rare to create that level of commitment to something. Yeah. We used to be in a class where they would say, create a problem that's big enough to give your life over to. They said, they're like, solving problems in life is an inevitability. If you have a problem and you solve it, what's waiting right behind that problem is just the next problem, right? So they're like, instead of working on all the problems that eventually show up in life, they're like, just create a problem that's worth giving your life over to. And so for Ilan and me, the problem we created is a society that's not transformed not experiencing their essence, not experiencing connection, safety, well-being, stuff like that. And so our pursuit has been in the practices that allow for us to re-engineer our minds, our nervous systems, our emotional bodies, and like what are the things that people can do realistically on a regular basis to really support them in having completely transformative experiences. Because we would love to see a world where people are truly expressing that which they are. They're not afraid to go for it and try to create something in this world that is of their essence and not fit themselves into boxes and systems that were designed and created not for them. Yeah. And unfortunately, the majority of our society doesn't have that. And we could tell you, like, you know, life is a risky game, right? Business is a risky game. Creating something worth a value that you're going to put out there and, you know, people are either going to love or judge is a risky game. And that's just part of it. And some people will do that. And it's unfortunate. We applaud them until we try to tear them down.
Go. No, you went too far. Come back down.
You're too good now. You've made too much progress. Come back, you little bastard. But you know, that doesn't mean it's not worth playing. You know, at the end of the day, I have a rule. As I've rounded 40, I have a rule where it's like, I may have altercations with people. I may have moments of judgment, but at the end of the day, the people in my life that I know well, what I know about them is their heart. Right? I know their heart. I know where their integrity lies. So these moment by moment things are irrelevant to me that might happen interpersonally that create difficulties or challenges. Like with my wife, like I know her heart. We can argue about things, even get upset or even hostile about things sometimes. But it's like, but I know my wife's heart. So everyone just kind of gets a pass in my book when I know that, and I find it strange when people like get into, you know, certain mental states or come up with certain stories about people or judgments. And it's like, yeah, but you know, my heart, like we can have this thing that showed up because, you know, something sensitive got touched and this thing came out and it's not beautiful or it wasn't in that moment, but nonetheless, like I know where you lie, I know where you come from, and I know what you stand for. And that's really all that matters for me today.
Yeah. I think it's a really, really interesting place to look from. It's kind of interesting that we are, so I was saying this to Andrew the other day, that one of the things that I'm really becoming more present to is how do I show up for my family and the people in my life the same way that we show up for our clients. You know, like when I'm with a client, I'm like, oof, so there, like everything else is melted away. And I'm just like here with this person, and I can feel and allow their sadness or fear, everything with this like incredible container of just being like, I got you. Right. And I don't show up for my wife and my kids in that same way all the time. We were talking about like, you know, I think that's what kind of makes relationships interesting is that like interwoven play and how there's an intentionality of like creating certain challenges like inside of the relationship so that we can grow. And yeah, it's like something that I'm really becoming more present to. It's like, how do I listen from that place, and how do I offer that same level of love and attunement all the time? Obviously, again, like I get it. It's a lot easier said than done. And there's something to that. I feel like we're sometimes the shittiest to the people who we're the closest to, because we know like they're not going anywhere, right? Like they're still going to love you. So it almost gives us like more space to be shitty in a way sometimes. So anyway, that's just another thing that's kind of come up for me.
Yeah, I think that's a really good inquiry. And I would say the same in my life. And I think it's just much easier when we set time aside.
Yeah.
You know, for certain things, we say, hey, this is really focused time. And
yeah,
a lot when we're with family, there's like so much content coming up and
exactly.
lots of different conversations happening. And it's not to say that there is not room for optimization there. Certainly, you know, like things I try to do when I'm, with my kids in the morning. I just don't bring my phone into the room because I'm naturally inclined to go check it over and over again or something like that. And like, I just really want to give them that space and time to be with me fully. And like, truth be told, is like, where do I get more enjoyment? Like checking my email again, or like looking, longingly and deeply into my son's eyes while he's got this like giant, silly, wild grin on his face. Like, that's the best thing ever. And then, I have those moments where I sit, I'm like, what the fuck am I doing here? It really deserves a lot more than that. It's strange that phenomenology of like being the worst to the ones that you love is a strange one.
Yeah.
And I think it's good. And I think it's because, they won't walk away from you easily, where like people that would, you tend to, walk a little bit more carefully or be a little bit more mindful perhaps about how you speak. And that's unfortunate. Like, I've investigated that for a long time, but it's like, I also think there's not a lot of space in society for us to have like a truly authentic sounding board when we're like really frustrated.
Yeah.
And so like, we'll take that frustration and, speak it to our spouse or significant other. And like, maybe that's not the best place to do that. Like the challenge I have in my life right now is my time is so encapsulated with my children that like when I have challenges, in my relationship business, whatever, my wife is like my sounding board for everything. And sometimes it's too much for her. And she wants me to have a sounding board elsewhere, but I'm like, I don't really have time to go or like, go get a massage today or whatever it might be that might relax that part. So she ends up getting too much of the burden and vice versa. And it's an unfortunate amalgamation of like the times that we're in, that we don't live in more community structures that can support, that kind of stuff. And look, we're all doing our best, right? That's the reality. Like I kind of recognize these days too, like that's my other role these days. I would just recognize that everyone is always doing the best with the information and experiences that they've had.
Yeah.
Or having. And so it's like, I don't want people to hold me to or fault me for my worst moments, no more than I want to hold on to them myself. I want to learn from them and move the fuck on. So it's the same thing. When I see that stuff with other people, I don't make the assumption anymore, oh, that's how that person is. I'm like, oh, that's how they were in that moment.
Yeah.
And I probably caught them when it wasn't great for them, or they had a certain stress that I wasn't aware of, or whatever it is. And I'm like, you know what? You got to pass in my book. Everyone gets compassion today from me. And like you said, it's like almost the most difficult in a loving relationship because you spend so much time together.
Yeah.
And you just kind of like hold them to a standard that, sometimes they can't live up to.
Yeah, for sure. All right. Well, my beautiful people, as we round 2023 and enter 2024, I hope to see a lot of you involved and integrating more and more into this work, our programs. I hope to see you in our level 1, level 2, level 3 programs. I see some of you are already in there. I'm excited to be on this journey with you all, this journey of introspection and learning of like who we actually are on this planet so that we can be living on purpose, amazing to ourselves first and foremost, so that we can then transfer that and be amazing to the other people that we love and want to impact in our lives. I hope that this year brings each and every one of you more peace, more well-being, more support. I think those are the things that have made the biggest shifts in our lives. I hope that you can ask for help where you need it. And I hope that you take actions in the place that can offer you that level of support. I just really hope that this year you don't talk about the transformation and change that you want. Rather, you become an active participant, get on the court and play. Because what I have seen is what one is capable to create in 12 months is fucking unimaginable. Mm-hmm. Like I record calls with people that register for level 3 and I send it to them and I'm like, keep this somewhere because you're going to want to revisit it. And they do. And they'll go back and watch like that call or one of the first lives that they were on with us as a group. And they're like, I didn't even recognize myself. Because the way that you hold yourself, the things that come out of your mouth, the way that you be, it's unimaginable, the kind of transformation that you create in 12 months if you have commitment. The practices, guys, are easy. Like, it's a rinse and repeat thing. It is easy. The commitment to show up no matter what, that's honestly, like, that's the biggest thing. It's not showing up when life is great and It's like when shit hits the fan, like, are you doubling down on your practices? Are you doubling down on receiving support? Are you like, what are you doing? So I really, really hope that for all of you, you're able to find that in your life. And again, if there's any way that we can be of support on that journey, again, we have been doing this for over 21 years, like individually. There's a lot that we can show you and help you circumvent a lot of the pitfalls and shortcut your growth. So we're here.
Yeah.
And we will remain to be here till you're ready.
And Van, I just put up the link to book a call with Ilan if you want to have a chat with him. It's a one-on-one 30-minute call, partially coaching and then partially an exploration of looking at, our programs and are they a good fit for you? Is there something else you could be doing right now? Obviously, our time is extremely valuable. We are now hosting thousands of people in this community, and that's coming with its own growing pains. So I hope you guys can be patient with us as we clunkily find our way into building all the systems and support things. Most of them are built out, truth be told. We're doing a good job. But the reality is the last 6 months and more intensely in the last 2 or 3 months, we're going from being a company that supported a few hundred people a year internally to a company that's going to support potentially tens of thousands of people per year. And that's, certainly going to come with some kind of shift in
just a few.
So having said that, our time is really valuable. Our clients, personal clients pay us upwards of $3,000 for our private coaching. You can do the same thing and get a private session with Ilan for just $111. If you do decide to move forward with any programs after that, we will credit you that $111 towards that program, so you can use it towards that. Otherwise, it is your show up fee and your pay attention fee. We need something on the line for you to make sure that if you're going to book into Ilan's calendar, that you're going to show up. So we're putting our time and our expertise at stake. You're putting your time and a small investment to do the same. So that link is there, and you're welcome to click on it. Otherwise, I did make a more simple link, but I cannot even remember it at this point in time for you. So, I will. For those of you guys who are interested, here's just a link in the chat box. Let's see, and I can even redirect you there. I think. Let's see if we can make this work. Yeah. That works for you. So a new page may have just opened on your screen with that link. He's got usually space for roughly 5 people a week. Beyond that, his schedule is pretty slammed. So that's what we're making available right now. Might change in the future. But again, if you do want to have a conversation, get some direct coaching, find out about our programs, see if they're a good fit, that's the right path to take right now.
And just one last thing. If you are interested to join the higher level programs, I'm talking like level 2, level 3. We are just about to start. So like the beginning of January, we're going to start a new level 2 intake. We only do that once a quarter. So the next one probably won't be till April. So if you know that this is something that you want to do, then I know my calendar is already full for this week, and next week I'm taking off, but like book a session right at that first week of January, and we can still get you into that intake. So if you are that committed, like once you take that, you go through that link, message me, just find me on Facebook and like message me or shoot me an email, whatever, just find me and let me know, hey, listen, Ilan, like I really want to make it into the January group, and I'll figure out a way to have that chat with you to make that happen. Cause otherwise, like I said, you'll have to wait till April.
Beautiful.
Okay.
All right, y'all.
All right.
Happy holidays. Many blessings to you and your family. We look forward to connecting with you in the new year. Ilan's going to shoot you out some hearts. I'll try to do the same. Bye-bye. We love you. Have a beautiful day, and we will see y'all next time. Bye.
Thank you, dear one, for choosing to share a bit of your day with us. We value you greatly. And as a way to give back and help you to deepen these practices, we want to invite you to join our incredible community on Facebook. You can do so easily by going to joinoldsouls.com and ask for an invite. This is our private community where old souls and seekers are able to grow and share their journey with others. We hold exclusive weekly live streams, we answer your personal questions, and offer valuable insights that we won't be able to share here on the podcast. So again, just head to joinoldsouls.com and grab your invite today. And as always, if you enjoy this podcast, please head to iTunes and leave us a review. It's the only way other people can find this show, so if it's making a difference in your life, please share the love. Until we meet again, have an amazing week, dear one.